Hey guys, welcome back to Shruti Karen on my YouTube channel, and today we'll be going through another series of different sort of techniques that we need to put importance on for our paper 1s and paper 2. Today we will be specifically focusing on the overall candidate performances, like in general. However, before I begin, I'd like you all to quickly go and subscribe. Don't forget to click on the like button. Additionally, if you haven't looked at the HKDSE syllabus overview for the 2023 and 2024, I'd advise you to go quickly over that video first to make sure that you're equipped with enough knowledge on your DSE syllabus. At the same time, I'd highly recommend all of you to go and visit my YouTube video on the paper 1 and paper 2 dissection. So these are two separate videos which I will include in my caption to make sure that it'll be much more easier for you to go through them. So today, as you can see, we're going to be going through the candidate performances, and I understand that you will be able to find them in the HKEAA website. However, the main focus of today's video is trying to compile all those different candidate performances into one PowerPoint, which I've done here today. So if you go through this video, although it will be slightly longer than usual, but you'll be able to see all the major problems that you can try to avoid during your exam, and to make sure that you are strengthening your skills that you need for paper 1 and paper 2. Before I move on, I'd like to share my email address here below. Also, you'd be able to find them in the caption, and also this will be my Instagram page. So if you have any questions, please feel free to share it in the comment section below of this YouTube video, or you can go to my Instagram page, which is right here on the top left hand corner, and you can type your comments in underneath the posts of the Instagram channel. So at the same time, if you would like to order a booklet of my literature in English notes, please email me on this email address. This is my personal email address, and you'd be able to receive a copy of that once you've purchased it. So moving on, today, again, just a iteration that this is an all-in-one performance report. So as I've said, a report is released every single year, and you would be able to find them in the HKEAA website. So all of the contents that I've shared in this video goes to the copyright reservations from the HKEAA. So I've tried to combine all the latest reports into one more concise, and it's like a more compilation of different sort of materials that is posted on the HKEAA website. So again, you just want to try to avoid these silly mistakes of your exam, which is your DSE exam. So quickly moving on, and without further ado, I'd be sharing what I will be talking about in this video. So again, we will be going through some of the major strengths that the candidates have shown throughout the different years, and the strengths that you should potentially show if you're trying to aim for the top grades. At the same time, I will be sharing some of the main aims that this paper generally has. But again, this is something that's not important, because this is just something like a background information, which I'll share very shortly. And then we'll go through some of the big improvements that you can make, which will be supported by the major problems. And lastly, we'll go through the popularity of various different questions, followed by a very quick conclusion, both on paper 1 and also on paper 2. So generally, the different aims of paper 1 is just to make sure that you're not memorizing different answers, quotes, key terms, simply for the sake of it. So the examiners want you to make sure that you're utilizing all those skills, all those techniques you've learned during your 3 years of course in this literature in English, and you're putting it to the right use. And the question types are obviously changed every single year. So this is not something like maths where you would be able to have like the same question type every year. paper 1 and paper 2 always tends to have different question types and different questions every single year, and this is why they would, one of their bigger aims and major aims that they highlight is to make sure you don't just memorize things, but actually you're trying to assimilate what you've learned and trying to comprehend every single knowledge to the best of your ability. So this is how the general popularity for paper 1 looks like. So I've compiled different popularity questions. So this is 2021, 2020, 2019, and 2018. So this is the compilation of different percentage which I've mentioned in this PowerPoint. Of course, the most popular question is from the novel and the play, and this I think can be highlighted throughout different years. So if you take a closer look at the percentages for the play and the novel, you'd be able to see what I'm talking about. So just look at the novel, focus on the play, the novel, the play, the novel, and the play. You'd be able to see that most of the percentages, the highest popularity, in other words, the questions that most students choose are usually from the play and the novel. 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 This is something that I really want to highlight, and I really hope that this is something you can gain by the end of it. However, again, when you're having your exam, you should always try to aim to do the short story questions. Because you can see that the overall percentage for the short story questions are relatively lower when compared to the film and the plays. So I really hope that really makes you understand with all the different highlights that I've shared. So I'm quickly going to erase it to indicate again that the short stories are extremely important for you to choose in the first section itself, because usually these are the questions that students would try to deviate from. So when most of the students are choosing not to do this question, it generally means that you have less competitors. And when you have less competitors, there is a higher chance for you to impress the markers with the knowledge that you have in terms of your poetic techniques, in terms of your short story key terms and the plot knowledge that you have, the character development, the symbols, the motifs. Those are all very important, and those are things you can use in your short stories. So I really hope that helps. So this is always the first type of question you should choose. Number 2, the second type of question that you should choose is the film. Now, I understand that for some of the years, for example, let's say this is the 2021 popularity chart. So you can see that Vertigo questions are extremely popular. Also, in 2020, the Vertigo question is extremely popular. So if you have Vertigo in your syllabus, there is a high chance that people would choose those questions because those questions seem relatively easier to the candidates during the DSE exam. However, I'm not trying to say that you should completely avoid the novel and the play, even though they have the highest percentage, but the overall concept is that a short story and a film as the first 2 questions in part A would be a better choice to do, so that you have less competitors and to make sure that you can get the best of your grade. However, again, every time when you're in your DSE exam, you need to make sure that you choose a question that you feel more comfortable with, and this is just an advice nevertheless. So moving on, these are some of the problems that candidates would usually have, and I want to highlight some of these problems. Now, if you go back to my previous video of paper 1 dissection, you would be able to make sure that you avoid this kind of the problem. So this is technically the solution to your problem. So I would be sharing the link of my YouTube video for the paper 1 dissection in the caption below. I honestly don't mind going through the paper one dissection with you once again. However, I think if you look at the previous video, it's more easier to comprehend because I've got the past paper on hands with me in that video. And if I try to share it here in this PowerPoint, I think it will be more complicated and the video would be quite prolonged. And it will be technically unfair for those who've already watched it. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the problem of genre missing, technically the missing genre, you can go back to this video to make sure that you can avoid such type of problems. So if you look at the HKEAA website in the previous series, you'd be able to notice that at least 20 students would miss one type of genre. So of course we have different types of genre, which is the novel, the play, the film, and the short story. So these are the 4 genres, and in short, you need to cover all these genres. But again, to look at it in more detail, it's generally advised to go back and hop onto my previous video to make sure that you're able to equip yourself with the skills that you need. So now, despite that being one of the major problems, of course, there is the good parts which we all cannot avoid. So if you look back into the official website of the HKEAA, one of the things that they highly appreciate is the candidate's strong understanding of the set text. So it means that candidates can grasp the basic knowledge and also the complex key terms and plot twists that is usually that is usually found in set text such as films. So in general, it means that if you're trying to aim for a good grade such as level 5 or above, one of the things that you need to make sure is you need to have a super good understanding of your set texts. And this of course comes with practice, practice, and practice. So moving on, there is lots of different areas that people need to improve. And of course, one of the biggest thing is time, completing things within time limits. So paper 1 in general is just 3 hours, and paper 2 is of course 2 hours. Now if you hop onto my previous videos, you'd be able to learn a little bit more about time management. And I just want to highlight how important it is to manage your time really well, because if you're able to manage your time really well, you're trying to make sure that you're not avoiding any type of questions and just making sure that you can gain as much marks as you can. The second important mistake that people usually make is not sticking enough to the question. So there's usually a tendency for candidates to overwrite and include unnecessary as well as irrelevant details which is not related to the question. For example, students would usually give their point, however, their quote may not correlate with the point, which is often the reason why students may not gain any marks. Of course, if you pay closer attention to the marking scheme, you'd be able to notice that markers cannot take marks off of you. They can only give you marks. But again, if you're not doing the correct thing, technically you're not gaining any marks, and it's just going to downgrade your entire examination grade. So moving on, number 3 is of course the literary techniques. So of course there's a lot of tendency to give greater weight to plot, character, and theme in different answers, but people usually forget about literary techniques. It's not always important for poems to have poetic techniques. You need to realize that plays, films, and novels can have literary techniques. It is possible. And in order to make sure that you have an in-depth analysis from various different perspectives, it's always a good idea to go through literary techniques. And I'm sure you'd be able to find loads of these techniques in my revision notes. Again, if you'd like to gain a copy of those revision notes, please email me on this email address below. So moving on, the fourth mistake that people would usually do is interpreting keywords and also different terms. So sometimes there would be questions that students do not understand For example, let's go back to 2021, let's say, and there was a question on narrative structure. There was a question on personal fulfillment. And it seemed that people did not understand what personal fulfillment meant. There was also candidates who didn't understand the meaning of symbol, didn't understand the meaning of narrative structure, and one of the biggest mistakes that candidates would usually do is mistaking a theme for a symbol. And it's important to see the difference between the two. So in general, the idea is you need to make sure that you understand the key word, the key term that is being used in the question, to make sure that you're not mistaking the question. And if you truly feel that the question is beyond your capabilities or it's beyond your understandings, do not choose that question. Do not limit yourself for choosing that particular question simply because it looks fancy or you think less students would do it. Just choose a question that you think is within your range of understanding. Lastly, again, cover all the genres. So this is mentioned in the previous slide as well, where I said lots of students miss the genres. So it is so important to understand that you need to cover all the genre, and I cannot emphasize more how much that is important. So these are generally the paper 2 problems, which I will tackle in my next video. So if you'd like to learn more, please hop on to my next video. Don't forget to subscribe and click in the bell icon. At the same time, let me know how you felt about this video and comment below to share about what you'd like me to talk about in my next video. Till then, see you guys.